I request you all to please turn off your mobile phones, and I welcome Mr. Athar Tahir, Ms. Bushra Naqi, Ilona Yusuf, Jocelyn Ortt, Muneeza Shamsie, Ms. Sadaf Saaz, and Ms. Shaista Sirajuddin. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have today a diverse group of writers, diverse in terms of age, diverse in time, in the sense of how long they have been practitioners of this art form. And so I think that we can move forward to good things coming our way. I am almost flanked by a most seasoned critic. Many of you will be familiar with her work because it has been so useful and so discerning. And this is Muneeza Shamsie, and A Dragonfly in the Sun was a much needed collection. We also have Jocelyn, Saeed, who has been with us in this town. We are very lucky, we are quite blessed to have had her attend many sessions, though she says that she hasn't been doing a great deal of that, but I do recall listening to her, reading her poetry and also setting some of her poems to song. I'd like to welcome Sadaf. She has come from Bangladesh and clearly represents perhaps the youngest of us, unless of course, I don't mean to be rude, there are some people who are not that young but who look extremely youthful. But I think that she is the youngest amongst us, and so welcome Bushra Naqi and Ilona Yusuf, who I think a lot of people know as a prose writer. I may be wrong there, but maybe she's done a lot of poetry too. I have unfortunately not been able to read a great deal of her work.
She won a prize. I arranged a competition when she was a schoolgirl.
Well,
man came from Ilona Yusuf.
Well, I bow to your superior
Contact
knowledge and contact. So welcome. This is a rather novel title. It says Angrezi Mushaira. Now, the way I understand Mushaira, what I understand by it is that poets read their work and we all appreciate it and enjoy it. I think that is by and large what we should do today. We should have the experience of actually listening to the poets reading their own work. So many of us actually either teach, poetry or read it, but it's different, obviously, and much more enriching and fulfilling to have the poets read their stuff themselves. So that is what I will do. I will invite these ladies here and our Raja Inder for the morning is Mr. Athar Tahir. And he is, of course, not simply vintage and seasoned and mature. I think he's everything. And I don't mean to be facetious at all. Athar knows my bent of humor. So I'm sure he will not take it ill. But I will, from time to time, ask questions. Questions which I feel, if I were sitting amongst you, you would ask as an audience. So I'm taking the liberty to, in a sense, be representing you, sort of things that you might want to ask. And then, of course, if there are specific things that you want to ask, you can raise your hand. All right? So with that, welcome to you all, and I think we'll kick off. Would you please start with something that you would like to read?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm very honored to be here in Lahore today. I would like to read a couple of poems. First one is called Tikli and Glass Bangles. With tikli and glass bangles, a swish of anchal with sandal toe, secured in this jigsaw web as pieces come and go. Am I in too deep? Sometimes, not at all. Red bar, zari edge, black shades and all. Untamed as sweat glistens, a shake of tangle with jet mane, I've awoken again to the destiny I foresaw, the dream that I bore. To many who had glimpsed the black and white prints, bear a chronicle of sorts. Yes, I've emerged with uncorked gushing froth, cutting energy raw, stamping my horizons, and others I saw, with askance parda eyes and dormant riches within. I enveloped floating worlds till chains became rings and freedom another space. As the wilderness grew, I with it too. Yes, I've ridden cotton clouds from strength, driven by the call. Black denim, bootlace, raw silk and all. The next poem, my poetry is kind of what is in me, and it comes out. And I feel that I need to give a bit of an explanation to this. Usually I don't. I grew up in the UK, and then I came to live in Bangladesh after I finished university, having spent a couple of years only when I was a teenager in Bangladesh. And I've been involved in the women's movement for many years. And recently an issue which I think is something which collectively Pakistan and Bangladesh has to come to terms with. I met women who had suffered in 1971, and I just wanted to read to you a poem about these women. I'm going to read a bit about the preface that I've written to this poem. So in 1971, during the liberation war of Bangladesh, Pakistani soldiers carried out a campaign of rape against Bangladeshi women. Exact figures are not known, but the estimates put the number at 200,000. And the term given to the rape survivors of 71 was Birangona by our government. And it was initially given to signify a brave woman who had overcome trials. But the title became a pejorative label within the context of a very conservative society. And many of these women were ostracized and not accepted back in their communities. And this is something we have also had to live with, and this poem is dedicated to these women. Birangona, heroic one, the name bequeathed you, but you would have to be much more than that in the years to come. The wrong we did by you, we all know what you went through. Never black and white, fighting through the grays, the multiple ways you had to. That official line, our mothers and sisters lost their honor, rather than the other way around. Those who found they got away with crimes against humanity, while all that remains is the shame stuck on you. Whatever you do, can't shrug off the stain we create. You survived your fate, to find family won't take you in, woman of sin. Difficult to find work, not paid if you do. After all, why pay when one can say she is loose to discard and use and abuse? And when the police and military came next time round, it was you they offered. What did it matter if they soiled you some more? You are no longer the mother of your son, who found out what you had done, didn't want to hear what had been forced on you. Terrified and disgusted, he and you back then, to bear wounds never to heal, which changed your life and death, as no one gave you a piece of cotton to wrap your lifeless body, though your soul left 40 long years ago. When you were cornered as you ran, then it began, men like giants on you, till you got used to it. And when you found freedom in joy and longing, you were reviled and defiled by your own. You are the one who dressed up and wore gold, and you sold your dreams to the enemy, but your menfolk and homes were left alone for the sacrifice of this unsung dilemma. You are the one who was caught when 10 of them found you in the Thankit, left you half dead, as you jumped in flowing waters, but found yourself still alive on the other side. As you were pulled out like a fish in a net, afterwards not able to say that your feces dripped constantly till the day when you could take your own life. You are the one who was stripped bare when you dared to tie the sari length around your neck, and when you tried, using your long, thick braids, your head was shaved, and like a captive animal, you were starved to get you obeyed to what they say till you had no other way out. You are the one whose husband shunned you when you could no longer satisfy him. Of course, never yourself, too scarred within. And out, even though your mother-in-law said it was not your fault and ensured you were home. You are the one whose husband cradled you after their semen dripped down your swollen insides and legs, and loved you till he was killed by local thugs greedy over land, and you were turned out by his family and left to beg. You are the one whose beautiful brown-eyed girl has blossomed in a faraway place, in a different time and space, the chosen land. She will never understand, will never know how you could bring all to tears with your sweet, lilting voice, milking ballads of your soul, all the endless years of anguish and pain you felt at giving up a very part of you. You are one of countless, whose story was never told and never will. As all records were burnt, you will never come forward, as your own people brutalized you over again, as your government washed its hands of you and your sacrifice, and doesn't want to know what you went through then, and still are now, if you manage to survive. Thank you.
I think that this very fine reading of an extremely disturbing story dispenses with the idea that women can only write about having children and how wonderful it is to be alive, and about domestic matters, and that they are limited in their scope. That is one of the one of the criticisms leveled against women. I think here we can see how this young poet has addressed what she has also clearly deeply felt, and it has made all the difference to have actually heard her read it. I read the poem in cold blood, and it did not move me in the way that it has moved me now. So on that rather disturbing note, perhaps we should now move on to another reading by another poet. Jocelyn wants to say something.
I would like to say that it has been very difficult to write these things here because people don't... Tyra Mazhar Ali was the only woman who stood up in lieu of the government to apologize to people from Bangladesh whenever they were around. And I supported her. I worked also in women's groups. But I want to say that I started a poem. It says, I cry out my nights and days, searching a place. I cower before violence and know the disgrace of wanting to understand what I was and am. A schoolgirl of Shantinagar, abducted and threatened. It's a long poem, I won't read it. This was an excellent poem. But if I'm to read some other poems now, I'd like to say, Before the Dawn, I don't think, are we using this? I don't know.
Well, if you can be
Yes.
heard at the...
Can you hear?
Yes. I think it does help, Jocelyn.
I'm not sure how to use it.
It's already on.
All right. I'll just go ahead. All right. In the cool of the dawn, early I come, before the sun, a yellow flower in the cool of the dawn, trailing bird song of wonder and seed bed of promise. I walk the flat roof of my days, not speaking, only holding my own heart and hoping. I long for a longing so deep, no one will fathom its depth. I long for a word so silent, it's not lost in death. You said there's a special poem, but I think
that's Remembering the War Days.
Oh,
That
goodness,
is
yes.
a very different
Poem. Well, let me read Lahore first.
Yes, please do.
Lahore is large, like the skirts of my legendary mother, swishing about me as I walk the mile into wonder and question, and east is west. I want to go up to Kinnaird, you know, but I never get beyond the mall, the lower mall of memory, where I'm alone in a past not mine, still contemplating bread and wine. Bread in the beauty the burqa conceals, the inimitable sound of horse hooves and wheels, music to many, and many some, whose incredible faith is a big victory one. It's midnight now, and Naqi is sleeping. The temperature's down to 103. I'm where I was, without car, without money. Sometimes in heaven, more often in hell. I double MA, from good family too. Speak little English, know well the Zoo. I like to be liked, and I like to be known. My wife and children, they happy at home. The mall is a meeting place for men. A remarkable relic, modern as Zen. A place where sometimes anything goes, when nothing is taken as basis. In Lahore, there is paradox round every turn. The Gothic cathedrals, the Bhakta concern, places and bases we wish to avoid. The hippie smile and mention of AIDS. And today, there are programs to plan all our needs. Eradicate malaria, reduce the mouths the nation feeds, give impetus to education, by a vowel change to vocation. And recently I even heard the International Women's Club was meeting,
Banning dowry at the Pearl.
was banning dowry at the Pearl. How time and money go together. And time's not money in Lahore, despite what's said and done. The cripples begging on the mall, and time pursues each one into that silence when Lahore is beginning time in me, growing imperceptibly that truth, whose fruit will ripen sometime when the skirts of my legendary mother open.
Thank you so much. new heart into those of us who have lived in this city and continue to do so, when much of it is in the process of being lost. And clearly, too, in a sense, this poem is dealing with the past. Jocelyn has talked about programs that plan all our needs to eradicate malaria, and we know where the polio program is taking us, and it certainly is a road where no road goes for all those poor people who have perished. And I believe what you get at the end of a stint of vaccinating children is 250 rupees. So perhaps that is something that some of our poets might at some point write about.
But it's been stopped in Peshawar and other places.
Well, a lot of things have been ostensibly stopped, but they still go on. The first anthology, one of the earliest anthologies of Pakistani literature, was published in 1978, and it was edited by Alamgir Hashmi. A Dragonfly in the Sun came out in 1998, and I said earlier what a welcome publication it was and how useful it has been for a lot of students and readers across the board. I would like Muneeza Shamsie now to talk a little bit about, well, she's a critic, about the poetry scene as she sees it, and she also would like to read a few poems by writers who are not here with us today, and who are, would you do that, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, the thing was that in the 60s and 70s, the great English language scene was poetry. And now, of course, the big news is fiction. And what I find is that in the fiction writers, now we talk about there's a blurring between the diaspora and the local writer. And there's a great interaction. All the fiction writers are meeting. Nadeem Aslam comes here, Mohsin Hamid lives here partly, lived in England. But in poetry, there is by and large, although you have people who are based here, do not have an interaction with diaspora poets. They do not come here. And so there seems to be this rather strange kind of dividing line. I just wanted to read, one of the diaspora poets, Muneeza, who seems not known here at all, has been up for many awards. She's a mainstream British poet of Pakistani origin, Lahore-born. She's written a wonderful collection called At the Time of Partition, which is the second collection to be written about this sort of monumental event in our lives. The first was Khwaja's No One Waits for the Train. I'm actually going to read a poem by a writer called Imtiaz Dharkar. She was born in Lahore, grew up in Britain, married an Indian, then went back, and then she met her second marriage to an Englishman. She lives in India and England, and a good part of her is also Lahori. And this poem is about Anarkali. The first section was about Anarkali being taken, and it's a contemplation of power, of gender, and various other things that you will find out. The first poem, Anarkali goes, and it shows her being walked up, and she sings. She just goes on singing. And this is from the point of view of the builder who's laying the stone. And it's called Walling Her In. The prisoner had nothing to do with me. She had been restrained before I arrived. Bound, not gagged. I hardly looked at her. I was busy mixing mortar and carting stone. I started, obviously, at the feet. Doing the job I was given to do, walling her in. The stowing going on, clean and sweet. Small she might be, but she needed more space than I would have allowed, as if she had become a crowd. It was the scent of her that I noticed first, before I came level with her face. Not fear, just the scent of a living thing. I began to lay the stone in front of her mouth, but her breath on my hand, her singing so close to my face, did me in. All the words came and stood in front of my face, right in front of my face, until I heard her, the woman. I understood what she was saying. She was saying my name, the names of my children, the name of my wife, the name of my village, singing her heart out, singing my heart out, singing my heart, singing. The other great thing that's actually been happening more in the diaspora than here is the desire to bring poetic forms that are intrinsic to Urdu literature, such as the ghazal and the qasida, into English. Now, people like Alamgir Hashmi and Shaista have been trying to do this for a long time. But there was one other dimension that it emerges in the poetry. The main breakthrough came through Agha Shahid Ali, who was an Indian-born poet of Kashmiri origin, living in America. And in the way of diaspora, he was also, my daughter Kamla had the great good fortune of having him as her creative writing professor in America. He made a major breakthrough with the ghazal where he didn't use flowery language. He used couplets within the discipline of the ghazal, and he taught this to his pupils. The other interesting thing that happened was Federico Garcia Lorca, the Spanish poet, wrote what he called gazelas, G-A-C-E-L-A-S, gazelas and casidas, K-A-S-E-D-A-S. He was of Andalusian origin, he belonged to southern Spain, but actually the ghazal and the qasida were a part of the Andalusian poetic tradition during Muslim Spain, as indeed was the Arabic muwashahat, which is said to have influenced troubadour poetry. So I'm going to read extracts from a ghazal that he wrote, and then I'm going to come on to the qasida. The extract from this ghazal is called Arabic, and it begins, "The only language of loss left in the world is Arabic. These words were said to me in a language not Arabic. Ancestors, you've left me a plot in the family graveyard. Why must I look in your eyes for prayers in Arabic? Majnun, his clothes ripped, still weeps for Layla. Oh, this is the madness of the desert, his crazy Arabic. From exile, Mahmoud Darwish writes to the world, you'll all pass the fleeting words of Arabic." And then he goes on to various other things. And then he comes to the conflict in the Arab world. "Memory is no longer confused. It has a homeland," says Shamas. "Terror to lies, each confusion in graceful Arabic. Where were the homes in Deir Yassin? You'll see Deir's forests. That village was razed. There's no sign of Arabic. I too, O Amikai, saw the dresses of beautiful women, and everything else just like you in death, Hebrew and Arabic. They asked me to tell them what Shahid means. Listen, it means beloved in Persian, witness in Arabic." So what he did the ghazal of, a poet who was immensely influenced by Shahid Ali is Sadaf Hashmi. She's another poet who belongs to Lahore. I mean, Lahore seems to produce these wonderful poets. And she's been, in fact, as Athar had done, the qasida, you see, was originally, it's one of the oldest forms, possibly the oldest form of poetry still going. And it used to be recited around the Bedouin fire. It was an oral form. And then it developed, and then it sort of passed to Persian, and where the praise of daily things, and it used to commemorate daily life, passed into landscapes and other things. And in Urdu, it became a panegyric of prose poetry of praise. Athar has gone back in he's written a qasida, and the Andalusian qasida, if I'm not right, in which he actually tries to go back to the original three-part qasida form. They're trying to modernize it and yet look to the past. Hashmi is looking to Loka, to the transmutation, as she describes it, of an old Arabic form into European tradition. And she wrote, so she's doing something quite different, and she's written, inspired by Ghazala, a lot of, by Loka, a lot of qasidas. These are inspired by his poem, The Poet in New York. And this is, they're 10-line poems, I'm only going to read one, which is the Qasida of the Stride in New York. So you can see how all these cross-cultural influences work in the writing of these poets. And it doesn't have anything flowery or Orientally in it at all. Qasida of the Stride in New York. Windows, their yawn, their early morning blush, glances falling into lit triptychs split the here and now. Split sweet New York, striding. 11 ginkgo hand fans, cigarette butts. Down of 11 dandelions in every stride. 11 gossamer hour of boots, mink, military coats, muffs, hour of the gloved hands, holding hot coffee. Hour of holding hands, across and beyond. Ash, smashed crystal, the cold between windows.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted that she has read 3 poets today. Some of us may not have encountered these poets, but I would like to say, keeping Lahore and its surprisingly erudite and knowledgeable cultural environment. Imtiaz Dhadkar's first book, Parda and Other Poems, has actually been taught in Lahore. Muneeza is also a poet who many of us have been very lucky to have read. Yes, indeed, I think that there should be greater interaction, as Muneeza is saying, between the diaspora and people writing here. I think that surprisingly there might be more than, of course it can be more, but I think it can be more. And I think that now that we are talking about how writers are drawing on traditional Eastern forms, how they did so in the past, she's talked about Lorca, perhaps one has to start thinking in terms of metaphors, of redrawing maps of poetry. And the kind of travel, the imaginative travel that is involved in the new art of cartography. I know that in this audience today, there is somebody who has already worked on certain aspects of what today is known as travel literature. So this redrawing of maps, I think, is something that one can think in terms of as perhaps a figure of speech. I'd like to now invite Bushra Naqi. I'm being passed these little chits that are telling me about the time and how much more time we have. I'm just wondering whether we have a poem on time and the passing of time today. We'll do our best. It is, and Athar has yet to read and perhaps say a few words. And other than Bushra and Ilona, we have 3 other poets. So if you would please use your own judgment to in terms of time allocation, division. So Bushra Naqi, would you like to read something of your work?
This is a poem about the city of Karachi and the situation over there. A city sleeps. A city in darkness sleeps, whilst night rides in a coffin, fitfully spent in restful slumber. It dreams and dreams of a life of bliss, where children play with joyful abandon, where men to their daily task attuned, their minds restless to new challenges. Women dream to climb new heights in a free and open million. A city dreams in dark. In this rested landscape, nothing changes. Guns and bullets glide like fluttering bats. Rivers throw out dead fish. Makes no sense to a sane mind. Hundreds of men crucified to both ends, whilst the city sleeps in dark. The metropolis traffic will not abate. Fever runs through bloodless veins. Somewhere a wounded bird quivers, slinks into corners. The stubborn scar she struggles with stares into her face again and again, whilst the city sleeps. Human life holds on to pain and loss, embraces love and hate. Spirit struggles to fly. Overhead, the sanguine sky looks on. A vulture heavy with carrion drags on in the muck and slime of crimson dreams. This brings out the troubled city and the empathy that is spent in dealing with it.
So we have yet another troubled and disturbing poem. And women, these writers here are grappling with this and addressing it poetically. Is there some redress to be found here? I think perhaps the very fact that we are here today, sitting together, does promise a redress of poetry. I'd like Ilona Yusuf now to please read.
I wasn't sure what to choose. I write a lot of things which are very visual, very landscape oriented, but I also write some political poems, but I don't think they're my best poems. So I'll read one, escape one, and the other one is called Word. So, Word. It stands alone. Spoken, it's like a soft breeze, ruffling the fine hairs at the nape of your neck, that elongates itself, twisting to translate into nuances of meaning. Symbols for life, freedom, hard-won prize. Having a picture to show you the desert sunset, and it was for my parents when I was living abroad. I will tell you how it glows soft orange, turning the sky almost tropical, or like a Rajasthan sari on the other side of the world. This same sky that fades the color from plants that must burn brighter to compete with sun and bone-bleached sky makes the lime-barked Palo Verde blaze roadsides yellow with their fallen blooms. The rock-pile mountains have done away with intermediate shades, sun sculpting sharp folds like a modernist painting. The outer tips burn red, while light turns from the folds, casting them almost black. On the other side, over Camelback Mountain, clouds in a larger-than-earth sky arch vastly over the great plain, making its rocky heap a muted green, then dun, where moving darkness casts brown and soft shadowy pink, where spots of sunlight illuminate the praying monk rock with folded palms raised to the sky. Colors an artist knows as cadmium red, iron oxide, Indian red. He knows too that on a color wheel their opposites are cyan or phthalo blue, shades of the sky with its infinite variations, only some of which are clear to the human eye. Blending fresh recipes on his palate, the artist senses the difference.
Athar Tahir, I was going to say we all know Athar Tahir, yes, we do, and perhaps we don't as much as we should. He has been writing for many years. You have noticed that there are people here today, poets, who have also drawn inspiration from other forms of art, and Ilona Yusuf is one such example. And in the case of Jocelyn, it is the way that the words in her poetry capture cadence in music. Athar has done critical work, he's written prose work, and I think really the way I would describe him is that he is a citizen of Pakistan. Because other than, of course, writing poetry, which perhaps in some ways is a very personal thing, it is perhaps even something that one can indulge in for oneself. The kind of windows that he has given us onto various parts of our landscape, and the kind of research he has done, the kind of translation work that he has done, by my lights, qualifies him to be titled as a citizen, not just of Lahore, and Lahore is a wonderful city, even while it dies, even while it lives, but as a citizen of Pakistan. And perhaps beyond, because the poems, his latest collection, of course, straddles many different places, from Oxford to Lahore and to Kala Kalhar and so on and so forth. So, Athar, if you'd like to read.
Thank you, Shaista. Considering the constraints of time that we have, I've decided to read from my latest collection, The Gift of Possession, which won the highest national literary award for English, the Patras Bukhari, last year. And this is a poem which is the first part of what I call the Mughal triptych. It's about the Taj Mahal, but seen not from the perspective of the poet, or seen from the perspective of the builders, or seen from the perspective of the emperor who commissioned it, but from the eyes of common man, the laborer, the man who worked on it. And I'm not going to read the first section, I'm just going to read extracts, because I was told that I only have 5 minutes. So here goes. There were others like me in that dusty settlement, that stain spread into a town along the river, attracting more as cane sugar does insects. Many more from many lands, with words like pebbles shaken in a copper pot, or hammered into sentences with blacksmith staccato, or elongated to take a lot of air in, or pushed gently through the nose, to curl in the air like mountain mist. 20,000, some said, to work marble quarried from mountain innards, turquoise from the roof of the world, jade from the land of the Yellow River, lapis lazuli, blue and pink sapphire crystals from an island kingdom which only fell to a secret sharer in the Mahabharata. The finest red carnelian and red, yellow, green, white, grey jasper, striped or spotted or clouded, coral from the depth of deep waters, and agate from the land of Sheba, back-breaking, eye-taxing to match and cut earth's many moods to an inlaid paradise. Day and night, shift after shift, and 1,000 elephants to lug and pull and push what we could not. And bullocks, camels, mules, donkeys, bulls, how much can hurry be hurried? For 17 years we worked, laborers, wheelwrights, sawyers, hewers of stone, masons, plasterers, carpenters, chiselers, carvers, sculptors, grinders, polishers, mosaic workers, calligraphers, inlayers, dome makers, those quick with the hand and quicker with the eye, sturdy in the limbs and sure of foot and hold, of thick skin to manage the blistering sun, dark and darker in the searing heat, and the fair who sweated no end. And big hands with bigger turbans to carry stones up bamboo scaffoldings. In those moments, we rose to the height of minarets and saw the river like rope, limp and glistening on the great flash, as falcons see. And then I skipped to the last few stanzas. Those with angled instruments and dividers talked perfection, proportion, purity, fountains, soothing splash, a space to dream. Moon phase by phase, season by season, in the studied symmetry of many masters, it materialized like an entombed sigh on the vast landscape against the vaster heaven. The dome stark, simple like a tear. Magnificence mirrored, trembled in pools. River mist melted mirage, dawn touched dream. Sitar strings solitary lament. Then time became timeless. Died giving birth, bore him 14, they said. So deep was his grief, he locked himself away for a week. So deep, when he came out, his grey streaked hair were all ivory. We believed what they said, for truth could be worse. He had paid himself to simple ways, and music stopped. This is how he mourned her, as no one had and no one will. Was this king of the world mocking the less able with what he could and did, looking down at us from another life, showing us another life? It rose. Then we walked through his dream, feeling something of what he felt, touching something that had possessed him, aged him. In a world, everything was possible, was made possible. In his, across the river, everything was lost. For 8 years, confined, drawing ebbing strength from that distance, he gazed beyond the red stone walls at what would forever remember him. Sometimes there is more in letting go, like the paper kite at sundown and pulling at the string. On sandstone slabs of the wall, which hold in the gardens and keep the muddy current of a more tenable type out, where no one who mattered could notice, we made our personal marks. Some swastikas, some flowers, some fish, some geometrical patterns tools dictated. Many etched their identity known only in the paymaster's scrolls. The mosque trained, scripted in the language of the Quran. Some in what has more under the line than above it, of the language of the rulers and the ancestors. We scratched them, we who also had a name. Thank you. Shaista has asked me to read from my Qasida, which is the Andalusian Qasida. She wants me to read the short poem called Lorca. Lorca, as Muneeza has pointed out, was a Spanish poet, and he was shot dead for his ideas and for his poetry. So this is dedicated to him when I visited him with my father in the 90s. Andalusia. Lorca, the poet of absence. Appropriately, you are absent from the land you left and returned to, that gifted you words to speak or sing. We come to your town where the absence of a desert